Well, good morning, everybody. Well, it's actually afternoon. Today is the 15th. It's a Wednesday, so I'll just say March 15th. So I'm thinking about buying these silver coins, and I'm looking at them, and I like the cooler coins, not coins, but rounds, silver rounds is what I like. And it's the 3% logo with the skull, and it says, "When injustice becomes law, resistance becomes duty." And I like that because, we really do need to resist. And when you start looking at the injustice, like, I don't know if any of you have been watching the trial with the Proud Boys, the J6 trial. And the judge is just, allowing the FBI to lie, to hide evidence and do all this. And even when it's brought out to the judge's, you know, purview, and he looks at it and he sees what's going on, he's like, well, so what? Fuck you. So injustice has become law at that point, right? I mean, the judge is just making a mockery of everything that's holy in America, and no one seems to give a flying fuck. And when you look at what's going on in our economic system, I mean, it's just blatant lies, constantly lying to us, saying, don't look here, look over there, be happy, go buy a car. It's a great time to invest in a house, even though everything's collapsing. And it'll be a good time to invest in a house, just not now. So we're being lied to, we're being deceived, we're being conned. We're being told that now, China is the boogeyman. And it just sickens me. And I'm looking around thinking, it's not going to be long before China and Russia pull the plug on our petrodollar. And they're not doing it to be vindictive or evil or because they want to rule the world and they hate us. They just have to do it because we've sanctioned them and we're screwing with them so bad and we're fucking them over. That it's just like, we just need to come up with a different thing. We're no longer going to play football. We're going to go over here and create our own rules to our own game. And 80% of the world is looking to us for leadership. We're the adults in the room. And America and Europe have become bullies. China just brokered a peace deal with Turkey and Iran through negotiations and reason and common sense, not threats and posturing, not threats of sanctions and all that. So we're on the wrong end, or the losing end of history in this thing. So I'm thinking of taking one of those silver coins or rounds I'm going to get and making it into a necklace that I can wear with the chain and all that, just because that should be the motto. When injustice becomes law, then, resistance becomes your duty. Now, I think it's funny because the 3%ers, they're all right group. I haven't seen them lately since Lavoy Finnegan, was murdered. They kind of dropped off the map, but I guess they're still there, doing whatever they're doing. And I was thinking maybe they didn't blow it, when Lavoy Finnegan was murdered. Maybe they were really forced out of the equation because they didn't have the numbers or the wherewithal to really push back on what the FBI and the marshals were doing, and they tricked them all. Maybe, let's just say that. But these organizations like Oath Keepers and all these guys, they're, when you ask them, well, what's your mission? What the fuck does it mean? We are everywhere, and when that day comes, we will fight. What is that day? Are you preparing for a distant future, a distant battle for America's freedom and America's soul? Is that what you're waiting for? Some distant, never land and in a time far away? Because, when I was fighting my legal battle with the city, it would have been nice to be able to go to some of these organizations that I've been a member in a long time and send them a heads up and go, hey, I'm getting my ass kicked here. And I did with a few other organizations, and I got a whatever they call that, like a canned letter back. It's like, thank you for taking an interest in this issue that we feel so strongly about, and we'll get back with you when hell freezes over and you've had your ass totally kicked. And that's what ended up happening. But see, the game isn't won at the goalpost. It's won during the 1,000 plays during a Super Bowl game. And those 1,000 plays lead to a very, very small margin of victory for the Super Bowl. But if you're thinking that every play is going to be like a touchdown, then that's not really a game. See, that's not reality. That's not the battle for freedom and liberty. It's putting together a group that maybe believes in the fact that it's the little battles that really count. Like in my county, I was fighting private property laws, and private property laws are the backbone of the Constitution. You can't own a gun if they find a way to say it's illegal to own property. Gun is property. A wedding band is property. A printing press is property. A church is property. So if you're going to build a printing press or a newspaper or some kind of server farm to where you can become, the new media, mainstream media, and you buy some land to put this on, and you have to get a permission slip from a government to open that business, they're not going to come out and say, well, sorry, Bob, but we don't really like your church. You talk about things like God and honor and standing for family and fighting against the city, and we just can't have that. So no, you can't have your permission slip. They're not going to say that. What they're going to do is say, oh, that's great. That would be wonderful. We need more churches in this community. Unfortunately, you're going to need to get a permit, because it's a commercial building. It's open to the public. Oh, my hair is like that didn't work for shit. It's open to the public, Mark. So you're going to have to, jump through all these fucking hoops. No big deal. We like churches. So then you submit your plans, and they're like, yeah, but, well, what about this? What about that? So you go back, and then they go, well, we've had a change in environmental codes, and that church is really going to be too tall. You need to shrink it a little bit. One of my airplane hitting it. It's like, well, it's not even 50 feet off the ground. It's like, yeah, whatever. So they're just gonna drag it out with red tape and rent seeking and bureaucratic bullshit, and you'll never get to build your church. But they're not going to say why. They're just going to say, well, we're really working with you here, man. We've spent hours on trying to make this happen, but they really haven't. We'd love you to open that printing press, but the roof has to be so tall, and the rain runoff, and what's going to happen to that water? And it's like, well, I'll build a retention pond. Oh, no, you can't do that. That's a navigable waterway. So you go, well, I'll put it underground. I'll make it lower so there's, it's different. No, man, can't do that. You see? So private property protects the First Amendment, freedom of speech and religion. It protects the Second Amendment. Because if you don't own your property, where are you going to build your church? Where are you going to build your printing press? Where are you going to put your guns and your rings and your gold and your silver? Where are you going to have privacy for your papers and your documents? Nowhere. Because you can't own private property. So therefore, you can't build a vault on your property because it's too heavy. It might capsize the island. So these are the fights that must be fought. And see, nobody stood up and said, hey, Mark, some of our members are lawyers, and we have a pro bono kind of thing to where, you know, we'll help you out. You know, it's just some filings. It's not like this is not a court battle that's going to go on for years and all the way to the Supreme Court. I think we can just go in and kick the city's ass pretty handedly and really, you know, make some waves and get your rights restored here. And even if the justice of the peace is a dumbass and is beyond incompetent, well, we'll just appeal it. That's just more paperwork, really, and then we'll get this done. See, because we're an organization. See, that's the play. It's not the last play of the game. It's not the first play of the game. It's not even the play, fourth down, to where you got to really strategize. Should we kick? Should we do this? Should we run? Should we pass? It's just the second down. We got some latitude here to move. So it's all those little plays that bring you to that victory by a very small margin usually, but it's still a victory. So these groups, these oath keepers and 3%ers, and God, there's so many of them now, just out there. America for this and Patriots for that, and it's like, everybody's raising money for their fucking stupid little organization, but the organization isn't doing anything. Well, what we're doing is we're saving money for the battle royale. Oh, wow, when is that? We don't know. Who are you going to fight it with? I don't know. Well, what kind of weapons are you going to need? Well, we're not really sure because we don't know. It's like, oh, so you're just taking money and moving it around. Living good, I see, yeah. This happened with, BLM. It started out to be a good cause, I'm sure. Then they got a lot of money and they got corrupt and, fuck all the members. I don't care about them. I got $1 million house. So this is how I see it. It's sad, but it's true. So I'm not saying we have a hope in hell of winning any of these battles. I mean, the financial system's about to collapse, and that'll probably happen by summer. Ukraine and countries around the world that are the breadbasket for Europe and a lot of countries, and even, some of the stuff we need for our food shelves, aren't being planted because there's no greenhouses that are working. There's no energy. There's no farmland in Ukraine that is like actually a huge exporter of a lot of grains and stuff. That's off the table. It's not going to exist. So, let's pretend this is a Super Bowl party, keeping with, football games and stuff. And you have, some friends that are going to bring beer, some friends that are going to bring nachos, some friends that are going to bring the soda, the water, the ice, the burgers, the buns, the grill. And then all of a sudden, like the one guy's like, dude, I can't bring the buns. It's like, well, we'll just put ketchup on them patties and we'll call it keto. And it's like, well, yeah, Bob over there, he's not going to be in town. He's broke. He's got to go work. So he doesn't got the condiments. Bucket, paper plates. And as all the people in your big Super Bowl party start telling you that they can't afford it or they don't have it or they can't bring it, then all of a sudden it doesn't happen. And so we don't have the grain, the food, the tomatoes, the lettuce, all the stuff that's grown around the world because they can't get fertilizer. Why? Because the company, BASF, that makes like a lot of fertilizer in Ukraine and in Europe and everywhere, they don't have natural gas, which is the process that makes the fucking urea. And the fertilizer in urea goes into so many other products like diesel engine oil additives and diesel fuel. So the party is not shrinking. The party just can't happen because nobody's around to bring the fucking nacho chips. And so it's starting to happen, and this summer's going to hurt. It's going to kill a lot of people in Europe and stuff because, I mean, I don't mean kill them like financially or that just killed me. I didn't have my Super Bowl party. I mean, they're going to fucking die of starvation. And here in America, BASF, the company that was shut down in Germany and is now moving to China because of, America blowing up the Gulf Stream pipeline. They don't have the natural gas to make these 50,000 chemicals that they use, and from medical to farming to freaking pornography industry. I don't know. 50,000 chemicals and processes. So they're not going to open tomorrow. And even if they do, where are they now? They're in China. And what is China telling us as far as shipping? Go pound sand, America. You guys are threatening us. You're threatening Taiwan. We got all the boats. The factory is in our backyard, and the boats are in our harbor, and they're not going to your house. So no chips for your party, motherfucker. So if you look at it, you can see it kind of coalescing into a giant ball of shit that is going to hit the fan. And then you look at these bailouts for these banks. You think they're doing that just out of the goodness of their heart? No, it's like, oh, you lost $100 million in SVB? Oh, well, here, we're going to make you whole. Where do you want us to put that money? Well, put it in my new bank account. Well, no, we don't really trust B of A or Wells Fargo. They're not doing too well on their stress test. We'll put it in the Federal Reserve Bank and we'll give you a digital card. Now you got your money back. You can use that everywhere. Don't worry. And for a while, it will work. Because then everybody go, wow, this is great. Look. And then like people like you and I that are probably patriots and preppers go, fuck you, take your digital currency and shove it. And go, well, that's fine. We're just going to offer the other 60% of Americans that don't have a pot to piss in the digital card with the sign up today and get $10,000 in Biden bucks. Even though you have no money in the bank, you don't even have a bank account. This is so cool for you. It's like, pandemic money, really. It's COVID money, but it's Biden bucks. And most, that majority of people will take it. They'll go, oh, fuck yeah, it's free money. I'll spend it. Where can I spend it? And for a while, you'll be able to spend it on whatever you want. You'll be able to go to titty bars, or you'll be able to even maybe buy ammo. You'll definitely be able to buy beer and liquor. And then they'll start contracting. And pretty soon you won't be able to use your real dollars. Now, there'll be a window in there where you can, and it'll be worth a lot more than that digital bucks. But they're handing us our hat. And when I tell people like that, that I talk to, they're like, well, that's kind of, pretty negative. It's like fear-mongering, Mark. And what makes you say that? And that's the key question. See, that's what people will always do to you. When you know in your gut you're right, like you just have this sense that something is wrong, your spidey senses. And then they go, well, explain it. You go, I don't know, it's the hair on my neck. They're like, well, that doesn't make sense. I get it. You got an intuition. That's cool. Okay, good. Good on you. But prove it. We're talking about the economy here. We're talking about America. America. So, you can't prove it. Now, and I know that the sun will rise in the east no matter where you live. And when somebody says, well, prove it, do you really have to prove it? It's just a fucking given. And what if you're talking to somebody that believes that the east is actually west because he was raised backwards living in a house of mirrors, and he thinks that, that is actually the west, Mark, you're wrong. The sky is actually green, Mark, you're wrong. And there are people out there that fucking stupid these days, right? They think there's, more sexist than two, even though genetics proves that it's only fucking two. A few hermaphrodites here and there, and that's in the frog world. So you can't prove a lot of things. It almost becomes a leap of faith. But most important things are. You have to be able to feel it. You have to be able to sift through all the information and go, I don't know what that means, but, and some of us are pretty good. I can tell you a list of ingredients and you'd go, well, that really sounds a lot like you're making pancakes. Go, yeah. I'm going to add a little bit more milk and one other ingredient, and it'll become crepes, which are thinner pancakes. And you go, oh, cool. See, there are people that can grab a lot of information that's really uncertain in which how much of each is going to be added into the mix. But they can sit there and go, sounds like you're cooking pancakes, right? And you're like, yeah, how'd you know? It's like, man, it's fucking logic, really. So, flour, milk, eggs, baking soda, baking powder, salt, fucking pancakes. Now, you could add a little less, a little more, and actually make a real cake. Add some flavoring in there, make a lemon cake. So you have to be able to do that, and you have to be able to look at it when people go, well, prove it. Just tell them, go fuck off. So I'll tell you what, when you're starving and you're selling your children into bondage for food, then come and talk to me and I'll show you the proof. But by then, you're not going to find me because I'm not going to talk to you because you're starving. And therefore, you have become a threat. You've become a rabid dog. So we have to start looking at these things. And unfortunately, maybe 20 years ago, 30 years ago, we could have started working toward an end goal that had better outcome for us, patriots, than what we're facing today. Because see, while we were running around creating all these 501c3s and ranting and raving against the machine, they were just doing what they were fucking doing. They were not only loading their guns, they were making the ammo and keeping us from buying it because the government was buying, millions and millions of fucking rounds of ammo, so we couldn't even get it. So now they're loaded. They're locked, stocked, and ready to rock. And we're still standing around trying to figure out how to save a few dollars in taxes by, should we make the Oath Keepers a 501c3 or should we just go for the profit motive and tell the government to go fuck off? Well, I don't know. Let's have a meeting and we'll discuss it ad nauseum. Let's build a think tank. So we definitely missed the starting gun. And we're definitely behind the eight ball on this one. And now it's coming, and we, as Americans and citizens of the world, can't really unite. We haven't been allowed to unite. It's like, I put pre-emergent on my lawn recently, and what that does is it stops the seeds from germinating. And that's what they've done. They've kind of put pre-emergent on us, so none of our organizations or none of our thinking can actually germinate and become something. And they've done that through, fake media and tech media and all that stuff, just, shutting down debate, shutting down conversations, calling it, false news, whatever the fuck they want to call it. And so when you really think about it, we really can't, we don't have any way of fighting this anymore because we weren't allowed to coalesce into anything or that would do anything. You add the yeast when the water and the mash is too hot and it kills the yeast and it just doesn't ferment. It doesn't perk. So they know all this. And so all of our hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of patriot groups have never coalesced. We can't get together and see eye to eye. And people I know, they're like, yeah, Mark, you make a good point, but, it's private property. The city has a right to regulate a little bit of it. And I was just telling someone the other day that's way smarter than me. I said, I think the whole thing with my private property issue is I started on the wrong foot. See, when the first time he came around and I confronted him, I should have said, yes, I did get your stop work order. Here it is. You can have it back. I don't recognize your authority. You have no jurisdiction as a city employee on private property. Your jurisdiction is on public property, not private property. And then he would say, well, I'm freaking out, and you can't do things without my permission. Kiss my ring. And then I could say, well, I don't recognize your jurisdiction. And so, it's just like in all the cop movies we always watch, right? It's like, jurisdiction, my ass. But there is lines of jurisdiction. You get pulled over by a highway patrol. If you pull off the freeway because it's crowded and you don't want to cause an accident, and you pull off and go down to some side road, the highway patrol will call a police officer because he doesn't have jurisdiction in the city or wherever you pulled off. Might be the county. He'll wait until a cop shows up, and then he'll tell him what he witnessed as that crime was being committed by you going too fast. And then the cop can either take his word for it or ask you a question, and then he'll probably write you a ticket based on what the highway patrol said and his radar and all that, and say, see, look. And then you can go to court. That police officer has jurisdiction because you're within the city limits. So my property is in the city limits. So they could have called a police officer. But then I could have just done the same, almost the reverse, when the police officer said, hey, this guy says you can't be building that house. Go, why don't I recognize your authority or jurisdiction over here on my private property? So you can't chase me back onto the freeway and then write me a ticket. Now you've got to get a highway patrol. So why don't you call the sheriff? And the sheriff's deputy can come out, and he has jurisdiction within the county. And so he would have a little more say in private property because I've elected him to have that. So he has the authority. So I fought it wrong. Now, I don't mean that would have won either, because the judge was willfully uneducated on private property issues. But it would have been a fight, see. So there's 1,000 avenues of attack, and there's more than one way to skin this bureaucratic cat. But we're not going to do it if we can't get our heads out of our fucking asses. And like I say, the Super Bowl isn't won in one play. It's 1,000 plays over an hour and a half or whatever that takes. And it's every time that ball is handed off to some guy and he runs and he makes one fucking yard. That's the whole game. It's a little thing here and a little thing there and a setback here and a setback there, and then bam, maybe a touchdown, bam, maybe a field goal, maybe. So we've been looking at it all wrong. And so, when you look at the injustice that has become law in America, then the only thing we have left to us as a duty is resistance. And it's dangerous. I mean, it cost me a lot of money to fight the city for 2.5 years over their injustice. Now, it didn't cost me more than if I'd have just played their fucking game, but I shouldn't have had to. And people are like, well, you got off lucky. No, I didn't. I lost. I lost freedom. I lost private property rights. I lost ground. Sure, it cost the same as if I'd have just played their game from the beginning and rolled over, and probably wouldn't have hurt as much if I'd have just brought my own KY gel. But the reality is, I still lost. So that injustice has now become law. And my duty is to resist. And so is it your duty to resist. Every time you see injustice, we should be writing that judge on the poor boy's behalf, and the freaking QAnon shaman with the horns and all that, all the bullshit that's been going on. Go, what the fuck do you people think you're doing in our courtroom? This is ours. We are in charge. We, the people, run this country. But no, we won't protest. At least the fucking BLM get pissed off and go burn something the fuck down. Now, is it for the right reason? I don't know. But the reality is, you know what? God bless the guy that fights back. And does that make them wrong or right? Well, I don't know their whole mission statement. But the reality is, at least they're getting tired of being fucking shot for driving while black. And I'm not saying that happens all the fucking time. Police shoot more white people than black people every year. It's statistics. But that doesn't mean that just because you're a rounding error that your problem isn't real. Black people got pissed. They're like, hey, fuck you. And they stood up and they got noticed. Now, you know, like I said, not calling anything what it is or what it isn't. I'm just saying, for fuck's sake, can't we fight? Can't we resist? Can't we push back in a way that doesn't burn down a fucking building? How hard would it have been for the 3%ers and the Oath Keepers to push back when Lavoy Finnegan took a stand for patriotism, for freedom? Not hard at all. They just didn't. Maybe they should have all got together and went, look, we are not in a position to win here. Let's back off and let's regroup. And let's next month have 100 fucking protests at different sanctuaries around the country. And we'll do it in areas where we have constitutional sheriffs that don't have their head up their fucking ass. So we'll pick 20 places where we have good sheriffs, good press, good people. And then we'll go to their bird sanctuary, whatever Mylar County, you know, whatever happened there with Lavoy Finnegan. I can't remember if it was like some kind of, you know, I don't know. They had a Forest Service sign on it, so I guess it was something to do with the federal fucking government. And we'll do that 100 times. But we're not going to do it one here and then one over here and then one over there so the government can play whack-a-mole. No, we're going to do all 15 of them across the country on one day. Boom. Wake up, motherfucker. Surprise. And then the FBI can't surround it with 100,000 agents because now all of a sudden they're going, fuck, man, these guys are popping up everywhere. And the people in the community are going, fuck yeah. And the press is going, this is right on. And so they can't go in with the governor that's a corrupt bitch like Kate Brown and get judges on their side and stuff. All of a sudden, they have lost the minute you open the door and say, fuck you, this is ours. But, see, they didn't do that. We can't coalesce. We've been sprayed with pre-emergent. Our ideas can't germinate. So anyway, I'm going to leave it at that because I'm tired of fucking venting about shit that no one gives a fuck about except you and I. And when I say you, I mean your 300, 400, 500, viewers that I get over the past 7-8 years. And thank you all very much. But if you're like me, you know that it's pretty much swimming upstream. It's a lost cause. But it's fun to think about it because if you pull back on the big picture and you don't take that 30,000-foot view, but you just look at your own community and go, if I can get my house in order and I can get my small little, neighborhood maybe on the same fucking page, and then we can start pushing back a little bit and showing our neighbors that freedom isn't a bad word, we might have a chance. And even if it all goes to fucking shit tomorrow, at least you have 10 people on your side now that you can run to and go, hey, come over here, help me bury this body in my backyard. Okay, yeah, fuck, I got some shovels. But right now, we're just standing alone in the forest, screaming in the wind. So, talk to y'all later. Hope you have a great one. Bye-bye.
We've made too many compromises already. Too many retreats. They invade our space, and we fall back.
I'm your huckleberry.
The line must be drawn here. This far, no farther.
That's just my game.